Lucy. So Lucy Pappas.
So I've been single on and off since my late 30s. After 22 years with the same man, it seemed like a good opportunity to try somebody else's body, find out what I really wanted in life and what I wanted in my bed. Now, some women like women. They like the softness, they like the curves, they like the familiarity. Not me. I like men. I like the hardness. I like the hairiness, and I like the different smell that men have got. We had fumbly teenage sex, and then less fumbly married sex, sometimes quite good sex. But then years of pregnancy and breastfeeding and small people in our beds started to make a difference. It seemed like every child we had took up more space than the last. And we ended up having a sort of unspoken agreement. He would work away during the week, come back at weekends. So I would drop him at the airport on a Friday, and then on a Sunday I'd take him back. No, the other way. I would pick him up on a Friday. He'd have the weekend with us, and I'd take him back on a Sunday. But that meant that Saturday was sex night. But only if we could get the kids to bed, and only if we could get them to sleep. And of course that didn't always happen. I don't know if you've got this, but do you ever have that thing where you're making love out of habit? You know what she likes, she knows what you like, and you just carry on. It's like sex by numbers, and it's about as satisfying as painting by numbers. Done, finished, temporary beauty. No imagination, no savouring the moment, just making the next move, waiting for the reaction, swap, sleep. We got into a different routine. He was home in the week, and I got back to being part of the local theatre, and that meant I was out rehearsing 2 or 3 nights a week. And then every couple of months there'd be a performance, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I loved it. And sex just wasn't important. So we divorced. I cut my hair, dedicated myself to my 3 young sons, and I tried to build up my self-confidence again. I was still Finnish, I was pretty-ish, and there were loads of men who wanted to get into my knickers. But for 4 years, it just seemed like, no, just not interested. So I didn't. But then the special one came along. The wonder. There was no embarrassment, ever. For 3 nights, my children would go to their father. And for 3 nights, we would play. The joy of sex, and something I'd just read about, but never really managed to have that sort of fun with my husband, that sort of became real. And there was a freedom to discover his body, my body, lots of laughter, and that dirty, flirty fun. It was an education and a revelation. And for 3 years, we had Christmas every day. Then I was monogamous again for about 2 or 3 years, each time. I couldn't seem to get further than that. 2 lovely men wanted to marry me at different times, but it was easy to walk away from them. The one that was more difficult to ignore was the one who said, "Let's sell up. Let's move to Canada. I can work with my brother. We could live on the farm. Your boys will love it." I knew he was right, but I couldn't take my boys away from their father. So I had to say goodbye to him, my beautiful Canadian man. It all fell by the wayside. I've had lots of wonderful partners, love aplenty and sex on tap. But there came a point where there just weren't many more attractive, available men in that small Scottish town where I lived. They were mostly friends, ex-husbands, and that felt a bit, icky. I wasn't interested. And internet dating became a viable option. Lover 69 didn't impress me. Just me for you tried, but he just didn't smell right. But there was the man with the beautiful blonde curls. Gorgeous man. I was so excited at the thought of actually meeting him. It was like this first cup of coffee was going to be so intoxicating, and I was beside myself with excitement. But his photos were about 20 years out of date. And the conversation in person was less scintillating, less charming, and not as amusing as our many phone calls. Internet dating became a disappointment. My vivid imagination wove all sorts of stories about these unfortunate men, and they really were unable to come anywhere near what I imagined. I think I missed out on a few good ones. But if I didn't have an immediate click, then they were toast. My last partner was an exception. He saw my online profile and saw the 10-year-old girl that he'd been in love with. He saw the girl who wanted to chase with worms. He saw the girl who ignored him and played football with his friends. She was one of the cool kids. We clicked. Serious clicking on my part, but not so much on his, I later realised. After the initial conquest and having all his fantasies fulfilled, he was happy to walk away. But it was 3 years of a strong connection. Me feeling alive. A wantonness that surprised me and delighted him. Passion unquenchable. Never before matched. In those last days, we made a pact. We did love each other, we really did. But we just wanted different things, and we were in different stages in our lives. So we decided that in 5 years' time, on his 63rd birthday, if we were both single, we would get together and we'd go off into the distance, happily ever after. But of course, meanwhile, that was 5 years, so I was back to internet dating. Friends in the know told me to reduce my online age, which I did. But I was less pretty, less slim, my confidence had taken a huge battering, but there was plenty of interest to keep me going. There was that younger bloke, not much older than my oldest son. A bit weird. The thing was that he had no confidence, and he took me to bed, and I thought, oh, it's going to all change, and he'll suddenly become a man. He didn't really, he just carried on being a boy. I don't know why I expected anything else. And it just didn't turn me on at all, so that was a no-go. There was the older man, who actually I quite liked, but he had very fixed ideas about what you should do and where you should be. And he just wanted to move me into his seaside bungalow, which sounded very nice. But he wanted to teach me to play whist, I think it was. And he wanted me to learn to go golfing with him and to forget all these ideas of foreign travel. He wanted us to grow old together. There was the deeply spiritual bloke. He was great. We got on a really deep level. His intellect was surprising, and it was very enlightening. His stories enthralled me, and I just wanted more. Unfortunately, his physical body was more like Buddha than his spiritual body. And his interest in sex, well, just didn't really exist. And I have heard that about really intelligent men. They're not that interested in sex. Do you know that one? Yeah, that's my experience. But the guy with the Winnebago, he was completely the opposite. I love all those big vans. I think they're really cool. And what a laugh, just being able to get into your own little house on wheels and go off where you want. So that was an immediate attraction. But he didn't want to go out for a meal. He wasn't into taking a walk along the prom. He only wanted sex, and loads of it. And that was great. I loved it. I had a great time. It was a special time because he was a lovely bloke. But then one day, he suggested that I go with him to his club. I'm so innocent. I had no idea. Luckily, I asked for a few details, and it was at that point I realised there was no way I could do this. I wasn't going to go watch a load of people touching each other and me just standing there, just being out of it, or maybe even joining in. And it just sounded hideous to me. I know other people like it, and that's okay, but for me, no. It just turned me off. And for him, it turned him off me. About 3 years ago, I decided to leave Hastings. I'd been back in my hometown for a few years, but I didn't feel the fit anymore. I packed my passport with no particular plan. I was going to go to France and Spain, and I went round Italy. It was quite random, and it was all on a whim. And in those 8 months, I thought I'd meet the man of my dreams and turn into some sort of Shirley Valentine. In Portugal, I met a man who I'd actually known in Scotland. It was about 10 years previous. We'd quite liked each other, but nothing had happened. And then I left Scotland and moved down here. And I didn't know, but he'd gone to Portugal. We got together. It was great. Had a lovely house, and he wanted me to move into his house. But didn't seem right to me. So he suggested that I just got the flat round the corner from him, a lovely apartment, and I could use his beautiful swimming pool at any time. I did consider it. It sounded like a wonderful thing to do, but actually, although it was a lovely offer, I really wasn't feeling it. So I returned home via the Netherlands, Belgium, Cyprus, ever vigilant and confident that a special man was waiting for me. But that didn't happen. Back on the internet again, I quoted my real age. My hair no longer coloured, my tummy no longer hidden, the length of my life in full view. My 1 month's trial produced 57 men who I looked at. 19 of them I would have been happy to meet. 31 men looked at my profile. 8 were interested. The number of men who I was interested in and were interested in me, 0. Not even 1. No matches. So, that's it. I'm not looking for Mr. Handsome, but he would need a great smile, and eyes that show his soul, and an intellect to keep me engaged. Shared humour, of course. He doesn't have to be wealthy, but I don't want a man financially dependent on me. I've been there, I've done that. And it would be a shame if he had too many exes to support, but actually we'd manage, we'd cope if that was the case. The 63rd birthday came around. I spent the day stopping myself from ringing, texting, sending a message, maybe an email. It was really hard because I just wanted to connect with him again. The following day, the day after his birthday, he rang up. He said, "Let's talk." God, it was great. It was like, wow, I've waited all this time for you, and here we are. And we had a great meal. And we saw a band, and we talked, and we laughed, and we just caught up in what had been happening in the last 5 years. He walked me home, but I didn't ask him in. That goodnight kiss showed such promise of what was going to happen, maybe the next time we met. He said he'd ring me in a few days. But the days went by. And then a few more days went by. And he rang. He said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I've been busy. When are you free?" Well, by then, I decided that, no, he couldn't keep to his word. And after all these years, I still couldn't trust him. I declined his offer. I was sad, and I was a little wistful, but I wasn't going to put myself through all that lack of respect again. But now, I'm a bit scared. Even if I do meet this wonder of a man, will I want to invite him into my bed? At what point do I explain that being on my knees for even a short time will really aggravate my arthritis? And the grip of my right hand isn't as good as it used to be. My left hand's even worse. And what about if we shower together and he wants me up against the wall, my legs wrapped around his waist? Will you be horribly disappointed that I simply haven't the strength to have that sort of fun anymore? Could I suggest a good firm table that you could just bend me over, and that will take the weight rather than my knees? Years ago, I'd lie wrapped in my lover's arms, breath in breath. Good place to lose your place, isn't it? Yeah? Oh yeah, okay. So with a wonderful lover, we'd lie there, breathing together. Wouldn't know whose arms and whose legs were whose. We were just so entwined. No start or finish to our bodies. And then we'd wake in the same position before stretching and smiling. How can I explain that I no longer enjoy being breathed on? And by the way, that contraption on my bedside table, that's my CPAP machine. It's connected to the face mask that I wear every night, just to keep me breathing, to avoid me having a stroke or a heart attack in my sleep. So what do I do now? What do other women do? We may be over 60, but we've so much love to give and still have an appetite for good sex. We've paid work, voluntary work, we've films we want to watch, and there's books we want to read. We may have children. Some of us have grandchildren. We've got tasteful, spacious homes, and we may have more time than we used to have. And mostly, we know what we want. Do we need a man in our lives? And how do we meet that one man who does it for us? Do we have to leave the house to find him? Can't we just simply fall in love with the postman? Or that guy who delivers all our Amazon purchases? Life is meant to be shared. I'm lucky. I've got wonderful friends, male and female. We cook together, we eat together, we go to the cinema, we play in the woods, we listen to music, and we dance. We always dance. Do we really need sex when we're 60 and single I'm starting to think that maybe we don't. But then I feel sad. And then I wonder that, well, maybe we do. What do you think?